Hi, hello. My name is Danny. I am a licensed esthetician and skin texture expert. I'm the founder of Skin Harmonics and the Regenerative Skin Process, a holistic process that creates skin that is self-renewing and self-purifying. And today I want to talk about corneotherapy. I'm excited to share this with you. This was something that I stumbled onto, I don't know, maybe about a year or so ago. And when I discovered it, I was like, wow, there's a word for this. And it's a whole website, it's a whole organization, and they define corneopathy to be a skin treatment methodology based on the repair and maintenance of the stratum corneum, which is the outer layer of our skin. And their whole everything is all about the importance of the stratum corneum. And if our skin could talk, it would most certainly say, like, help me or go away, or and I'm just more important than you know. And this is the layer I'm talking about. This upper layer is our epidermis. And corneopathy has a whole website, like I mentioned. It's an organization. And I want to share the backstory with you because I learned so much when I started digging into this. And I want to build on some history that I've already touched on before, because the reason the IAC formed, the Applied Corneotherapy website formed an organization, is because of Kligman and Fulton, who invented retinol and brought it to market in the 1970s. And these two men did it together. It was a complete partnership. They both took credit. They both received all the accolades for inventing and, bringing this to the market. It was a huge deal. I mean, we still use retinol today. And what I learned is that Fulton here, the smaller image, these men had completely opposite opinions about what to do with retinol. They completely had opposite, completely opposing point of views. And Fulton invented the benzoyl peroxide. He's the one that brought what I call the acne myths into awareness. Too much bacteria, too much extra skin cells, too much oil. The oil is the enemy. This is all Fulton. And he also, I have him to thank because he was the first to, for my job description, he was the first to create an esthetician, even like have that position available. It used to just be that doctors and dermatology offices did everything. And because of him, estheticians, like that whole field opened up. But Kligman over here on the right is, this was the gentleman, this like really, dark part of the whole acne industry is that like he gave experiments on prisoners, and that was not illegal at the time, but we know is very unethical. So this was the guy that did prisoner experiments, but this was also the guy that was pro barrier restoration. He went the completely different direction than Fulton, and I never knew this. This was the guy that actually believed in restoring the barrier and not doing everything that his partner was doing. So I've mentioned this before in past videos where I've talked about how the 1970s, but I never knew that it was, well, I knew it was these two men, but that they had completely opposite beliefs. And of course, that's reflected within our skin industry today. And the other thing that I was able to uncover is that I'm unpacking this with you because I want you to understand how we got here and just all of the full picture of the skin industry. Because what we see in the US is just this tiny little slice of the information that's available. So the other thing I found was that Kligman and Johnson & Johnson got into this like heated, timely, expensive battle over who was going to receive all the profits from retinol. I mean, it's a billion-dollar industry, retinols, maybe more. And there was a huge court battle about this. And When he passed away in 2010, his colleagues got together, and because they had had so much drama with the royalties and the legalities of all of it, what they did is they created this organization about corneotherapy just to preserve and protect all of the information that they have. I did their classes, so they're incredibly detailed. They've taken the anatomy of skin to a place I didn't even know existed under the microscope, and they're nonprofit, and they have two aims. One, to preserve the scientific findings of how important barrier restoration is and the upper layer of our skin, and to protect against the exploitation of money-driven businesses that have really sophisticated advertisements and branding to make you think that they own this information. And they wanted to just make this information available to all skin practitioners and therefore all customers. And so in talking about corneotherapy, they have defined these core values, and it's hydration, barrier restoration, trauma abstinence, retinol, and genetic phototyping. So I just want to go into these a little bit more. Topical hydration is something that it's basically our skin's primary need is for water for it to work in functionality. And secondly, I love this image because it shows the difference of skin that has proper barrier restoration and skin that does not. It's like night and day. And they also put a stake in the ground about just not participating in trauma-based procedures. So microneedling, all the chemical peels, the laserings, like that's just a no-go for them. So they believe that out of principle that it harms the upper layer of our skin and therefore is not beneficial for the entirety of our skin. They believe in the use of retinols, of course, because Kligman invented that, and they do have value with creating new skin cells. However, I have found them to be problematic because they cause a lot of inflammation and they sun sensitize. And that's, of course, why I use the bioavailable vitamin A. But classic corneotherapy believes in traditional use of vitamin A. And of course, corneotherapy therapists are very aware of phototyping, type 1 through type 6. Like this is a chart that I learned back in my 20s. This is classic, and this is still at play and very, very relevant. So that's something that's taken into consideration. So through a corneotherapy lens, it's this circled area here that is the topic of controversy. Like, how important is this layer? Turns out it's very important. It's a critical part of our skin. And in Western thinking or US clinical thinking, it's like, oh, it's dead, so it must not be important. And even I myself have talked about the importance of our dermal layers so much, and it is important. And it's because both layers are so exquisitely important for our skin. But this layer that I've circled here is what we're talking about. And it turns out that this stratum corneum layer is incredibly important and sends a lot of different messages down through into our skin and into our dermal layer. And some of the pros of corneotherapy, as defined on their website, is that there's no adverse effects. You can be, anybody that's doing corneotherapy skincare, we're not being overinflamed. We're not creating these trauma events that cause a lot of problems, these flare-ups that are common with barrier disorders, because we're just not doing the things to trigger those types of adverse effects. And then the cons, as defined on the website, is that it requires a lot of skill to analyze skin. And that was a lot of the training that I took, was all about how to properly analyze skin, because we're looking for how the root causes, all the myriad of things that comes together so to create a treatment plan. And the other thing is it's very difficult to find trained providers. There's a lot of lip service and buzzwords like barrier restoration that are thrown around, but then when you look at the actual menus, that doesn't really align with what's actually on the menu. So it is hard to find people like us that are trained in these principles. And what's interesting too, I also want to just point out, like when I was developing my methodology, I was in a tiny little bubble. I was in a void by myself trying to figure this out. And I came to the same conclusions. And that was when the IAC was formed. It was formed in 2013. And that was after I had kind of put my stuff together, but it was close to that. So I think that that's interesting that I came to these realizations not knowing that there was this entire body of work that was already in play. And so when I talk about analysis, this is something that corneotherapists do, and I do as well, it's this genetic phototyping. Looking for inflammatory signals, looking at oil production, topical hydration levels, hyperpigmentation patterning, textural disturbances, and the history of skin, like how many chemical peels, how many laser series were done. All of that is something that is taken into consideration, and this is something that the corneotherapists spend a lot of time learning. So who is corneotherapy for? It's for melanin-rich skin that's genetically sensitive to pigment issues. So that would be somebody that would be really interested in the regenerative skin process and corneotherapy principles. And I'm always shocked that I'm always trying to do a lot of education just to like reach people that just haven't, that need access to this information. Like if you're a melanin-rich skin type, then these procedures are very problematic and will disturb hyperpigmentation. So get the word out about that. If tell all your beautiful melanin-rich skinned people that there is a skincare methodology that exists for them. And then also redheads. Redheads have a really hard time with conventional skincare because it's so inflammatory. It creates like magnified, inflammatory events and episodes for people that have red hair, because genetically it just can't handle a lot of irritation. And then nextly, this is for people who have compromised immune systems. Our skin is part of our immune system, and when our immune system is compromised, the last thing we need is an agitated skin layer or vulnerabilities with our skin that create even just more problems within our system. Because it's just, I've actually heard and I know about people that they would get a laser series or an intense chemical peel and then actually get the flu, because it just was so disturbing to our immune systems to have that kind of event happen. And then, of course, anybody that has over-procedured skin would highly benefit from skincare practices that take into consideration and implement the corneotherapy principles. I know it can seem kind of boring to exit like the roller coaster of what I believe it's like. Clinical skincare is like being in an abusive relationship. It's very one-sided. It's very traumatic. It creates like this whole roller coaster events of being up and down and excited and then in a lot of pain and all that. Exiting that can seem kind of boring. Corneotherapy can seem kind of boring at first, but it's not, because there's so many really rich, beautiful, truly regenerative things that we can be doing for our skin instead of planning ways to traumatize it. And this corneotherapy is also for anybody who wants to delay their skin's aging. Like, it works to preserve the just how our skin ages. There's just so much data and information that is preserved on this website about that points to that. And then I also want to talk about just the differences of how the regenerative skin process differs from classic corneotherapy. The first would be I admit I don't use analytical tools and technology. I used to years ago have some tools that I played with, like it would show how much hydration was on somebody's skin. I would do it before and after a facial. I played with some of that stuff. But honestly, what I really would love is machinery or imaging that shows the subsurface blockages in skin, so we could quantify that. Like that would be incredibly helpful for me. But after this many years, I don't need to take out a tool to show me how hydrated somebody's skin is or not, or the other myriad of things that they have. Like it's something that I can tell by looking up close and touching and feeling and being with somebody's skin. And then next is I have streamlined this actual process of transformation that happens within the skin in the regenerative skin process, where there really are specific phases that our skin goes through. Like it goes through a decrusting phase in the beginning, and it goes through the initial purging process. Like I've mapped all this out in my book, and I've talked about this, I know, before in these videos, so I won't go through that right now, but it is how do we get from point A to point B? Well, it looks exactly like this. And then next, instead of using traditional retinol, I use liposomal retinol, retinaldehyde, and it's patented, which is kind of like a double-edged sword. It's an excellent product. It's highly effective, but yes, it's expensive. My price goes up, and that means your price goes up. So that's, I guess, that's kind of a bummer. But the good part of it is that we have this really, really efficient way to get our skin to make new skin cells, this really efficient topical skin food. So I don't use a traditional vitamin A. I use what I call dermal nutrients, and also known as bioavailable retinaldehyde. And I also use a biopeptide serum pair that specifics very, very specifically our LGR6 receptor. And both of these things build that angiogenesis, that thickness into our dermal layer without the sun sensitizing, without the inflammation, and gets that capillary mattress like robust and healthy and abundant so that it can make all the new skin cells. So that's something that's different than classic corneotherapy. And then lastly, it's my extractions. I'm a master extractor. I can get in there and just really assist this healing crisis that our skin goes in when it's well. So because our skin has enough hydration, barrier restoration, it's getting the sustenance it needs through the dermal nutrients. When our skin gets all that, that's when it wants to throw out and push up all of this subsurface blockages in our skin. And that's where I can come in and make this transformation just so much faster, because I can do in 90 minutes what normal estheticians couldn't do in years. So really efficient at just getting this stuff out. And so much so that it's just once a year. Once we get all the old subsurface blockages out, it's just once a year to come in for annual maintenance and just to keep everything super perfect and clear and keep that skin going in that self-purifying mode, which is what the products do as well. So I hope that you all enjoyed this deep dive that I did into corneotherapy, and definitely go and check out their website. And for me, learning that there was this complete split between these two people that invented the retinol just makes so much sense of why the skincare industry in itself is just so fragmented with all of these different pieces. And now it makes even more sense to me how we got to be where we are. And the other really interesting thing is they meet internationally every 18 to 24 months. I want to go at some point. The last few times they've met in Germany. So anyways, the word of the day, corneotherapy. And lastly, come see me. This is my office over here, right here in Colorado. And it looks like will be in California the beginning of July. No exact dates are set yet. So, okay. All right. I will see you guys next time.